Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Nerdy Movie News Roundup. This is the show where we round up all of the latest news in the world of nerdy movies, and I'm not live today because I tried to go live, and I guess I'm having internet issues. I'm a little confused because I feel like my internet should be working okay, but the live stream just got messed up. So instead of going out and doing a bunch of shenanigans and keep on trying to live stream and it not working out, well, I'll just record it today and upload it manually to YouTube. It's fine. We soldier on, okay? The show must go on. However, the rest of that song goes. Yeah, we got some interesting topics today. We're going to talk about the fallout of the Paramount Warner Brothers merger, because it's still pretty interesting, even though it's technically done. We, of course, are going to talk about Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer plans. We got a Game of Thrones movie. We got Tamora Morrison, being mistreated, kind of. Alien Earth Season 2, The Batman Part 2. So many things. Let's get into it. So, Ted Sarandos, he's the CEO of Netflix. He had an interview with Bloomberg, and he's talking about the whole acquisition of Warner Brothers. And he has a bunch of interesting things to say, so let's get into it. When did you decide not to match the offer, and what went into that decision? Sarandos: we had a very tight range that we'd be willing to pay and made that offer back when we closed this deal. We hadn't moved much from that except for moving to cash, which served to move the deal faster. I'm happy where we got in and happy where we got out. We knew right away when we got the notice on Thursday that they had a superior offer and the details of that deal. We knew exactly what we were going to do. You were in D.C. the day that you pulled out, and a lot of people want to know, what did the Department of Justice say to you? What did Trump say to you? What impact did the growing political resistance have on your decision? I don't know that there was growing political resistance. It was a growing narrative of political resistance, but we were on a normal regulatory path. I was in D.C. on Thursday for a scheduled meeting, with DOJ from a couple weeks ago to go through some questions about the deal. It was a very productive meeting, nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing had shifted or changed dramatically that had hauled me to DC. What was your first reaction when you saw the Susan Rice comments? I don't want or expect our board members to be out talking about politics, ever, let alone in the middle of a deal. But they do have the right to speak, and she wasn't speaking for Netflix. Did you and her speak about it at all, or did the board talk about it at all? She and I talked about it. And did you contemplate taking her off the board because of it? No. So, right off the bat here, we have Ted Sarandos basically saying that the reason why they pulled out was purely financial and that there wasn't political pressure for them to pull out. He denies, but he also, very stands his ground and denies taking Susan Rice off of the board, even though I probably should have pulled this up. I guess I could, but also I'm lazy. But yeah, like one of the Trump social posts was him basically saying, like, hey, Susan Rice talked some smack about me. You better take her off your board or else you will face the consequences. You know what? I probably should just pull this up. Okay, so this is like an account that reposts Trump's post on X, or on Truth Social. God, I just said X unironically. I'm sorry. Anyways, yeah, so Trump posted on Truth Social, Netflix should fire racist, Trump deranged Susan Rice immediately or pay the consequences. She's got no talent or skills, purely a political hack. Her power is gone and will never be back. How much is she being paid? And for what? Thank you for attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. And I guess if you're curious about what she said, I guess is according to Laura Loomer. Because frankly, I never actually looked too deep into what she said. I feel like it's not actually that important to all of this. But apparently, according to Laura Loomer, Netflix board member Susan Rice says, corporations who took a knee to Trump will face an accountability agenda from elected Democrats if they win the midterms in 2026 and the 2028 presidential election. Does Netflix stand by their president or by their board member threatening half of the country with weaponized government and political retribution for choosing who they wanted to vote for as president? This is as anti-American as it gets, and Netflix is proving every day they are an anti-American woke company. So that's so hilarious that Trump then decided to do exactly that in his Truth Social post. I mean, look, we don't need to get too political here, okay, guys? Listen, I'm not trying to get too political. The hypocrisy of this administration and MAGA Republicans is just insane. But anyways, I'm expected to believe that Ted Sarandos standing on base, not firing Susan Rice, I'm expected to believe that that had nothing to do with them ultimately deciding to withdraw from the acquisition. I'm not saying that I don't believe that it would have been, a tough decision for them to continue to raise the bids. I just feel like Ted Sarandos coming out and being like, guys, there was no political pressure at all. Trump is actually totally neutral on this. Like, I don't believe you. So, anyways. We really only have his word here, so we can't say definitively one way or the other. Anyways, he then went on to talk about more of the business side of things and how Paramount buying Warner Brothers is going to affect the industry. So he says, the interviewer asks him, let's say that the deal happens. How do you think Paramount buying Warner Brothers will impact Hollywood and the entertainment business? This deal is dependent on a lot of cost cutting. We were in the books of Warner Brothers, and the biggest cost centers are people in production. There will be cuts in excess of $16 billion. They are telling people who lend them the money that's going to happen in 18 months or so. It would be less production, less people working. So yeah, we have David Ellison out here being like, guys, we're going to make so much movies. This is going to grow the industry. And, we're going to make 30 movies a year combined with Paramount and Warner Brothers. But you have Ted Sarandos over here being like, guys, this is going to, they're going to be taking on a bunch of debt. They're looking to cut a bunch of costs. They're saying that it's going to happen in 18 months. It's like, guys, they're going to lay off a lot of people. This is going to lead to job loss, less people working. And frankly, I even though I think Ted Sarandos is kind of full of it when it comes to there being no political pressure in any of this, I do think that this is probably true. And is he saying this because he's salty? Probably. That's also probably part of it. But yeah, it is true that he is one of the few people that has actually looked at Warner Brothers' finances, and he's now speaking publicly about it. Yeah, he would know. So I actually do buy this, that the cost cutting that Paramount is going to end up doing with Warner Brothers is going to be devastating. So we'll just unfortunately have to wait and see how bad it is truly. But Netflix also talked about how they're going to continue exploring putting their stuff in theaters. The movie theater issue cropped up again and again. Now that you aren't buying Warner Brothers, does the strategy go back to what it was? Or are you still planning to put more Netflix movies in theaters? Everything I talked about would require us buying the theatrical theatrical distribution entity. But one thing that's been great about it is getting to know and have open dialogue with the theater owners. I really didn't have much reason to before. We figured out some really creative things to do together, like you saw with Stranger Things and K-pop Demon Hunters. We have One Piece in theaters next week in the US and Japan. I think we're going to find a bunch of cool things to do together going forward. I could see us doing things that we haven't done before. So, yeah, it seems like Netflix is going to continue flirting with the movie theaters, even if it doesn't end up turning into a full-on, we're putting all our movies in theaters like they were going to do with Warner Brothers. And I buy that? I buy that they'll continue doing weird stuff. Right? Like, like what we saw with K-pop Demon Hunters, where after K-pop Demon Hunters became a massive hit on Netflix, after it had such a such a crazy and devoted fan base, then you can put it in some theaters. You can have your little sing-along events. Like, I definitely could see them continuing to do that. I actually think it's really cool what they did with Stranger Things, right? Where they had the finale air in theaters and people could go to the movie theater and watch the finale. I think that was super cool. Although, I remember it was like a really weird way that they did it, because I believe it was because of the contracts that they had with all the actors and stuff, where they couldn't just put the movie in theaters and make money off of it, or else they would have had to pay a bunch of money to their actors, which it's just, I don't know, it's just weird that they would not do that. Because I believe what they did was they made a deal with movie theaters that when people paid to go watch Stranger Things, they weren't actually paying for a movie ticket. They were paying to buy popcorn and soda at the theater, and when they paid for the popcorn and the soda, they would get like a voucher to walk into Stranger Things. So I don't think Netflix actually made any money off of the Stranger Things finale being in theaters. It is just like, why not? Even if you have to pay your actors a little bit more money, wouldn't you rather at least still make some money yourselves instead of no money? I don't know. That was really weird. But for the fans that went and did it, it was cool. And yeah, like they said, they're doing it with One Piece next week, which I don't know, because the Stranger Things season finale wasn't airing in the theater near me, so One Piece probably won't be airing. Although I would like to see One Piece in theaters. I think that would be cool. So either way, hopefully they experiment with stuff. Hopefully we end up seeing more stuff. Just more of their movies in general airing in theaters. Like, I'm fine with like the Netflix slop not airing in theaters, like, stuff like I don't know, there's like this Alan Richardson like War Machine movie. I haven't seen it yet. It's probably slop. Obviously nobody needs to see that in theaters, but the next time that Guillermo del Toro makes some artsy fartsy movie, put that in some theaters. Why not? The Greta Gerwig Narnia movie, like, that should probably get a proper theatrical release. I believe right now it's only getting an IMAX release, which is lame. But yeah, we'll see. But don't expect them to commit as hard as they would have committed if they had bought Warner Brothers. Now I want to read this last thing because, listen, Teddy boy over there, he might be playing 5D chess, guys. Because this is the last thing that they asked him. If you feel like this is a rare asset, that also means that an asset like this may not come up again anytime soon, right? Ted Sarandos says, possibly. Or if you look at the history of Warner Brothers, ... So basically at the end of this interview, Ted Sarandos is saying, hey, listen, we may have lost the battle here, but if Paramount just completely shutters, due to the massive debt that they acquired in purchasing Warner Brothers, like, if it ends up going under, we might just loop back around and buy all of it at some point. Or at the very least, if Paramount ends up, selling off, they end up needing to sell off Warner Brothers after they fail to revitalize it the way that AT&T did, they might loop back around and buy Warner Brothers anyway at a cheaper price. So I don't know, that would be crazy if those are like the 5D chess shenanigans that are going on in the Netflix offices. And listen, it's not a crazy thing because that I have more articles to go through. So let's hear what David Zaslav had to say in a leaked call with his employees. So it says here in this Business Insider article, Warner Brothers Discovery CEO pitched employees on its impending Paramount Skydance deal after spending the last few months arguing against it in favor of the now nixed Netflix deal. I mean, this is just also so nonsensical, isn't it, right? Like it says there. This whole time, David Zaslav, when they decided that they wanted to go with Netflix, they were like, listen, guys, the whole Paramount situation, it's unstable. We don't know if they're actually going to be able to finance this whole thing. Like, look, Netflix is much more secure. Oh, Paramount decided to offer way more money and we kind of have to take the deal now. Listen, guys, Paramount, super secure. This is going to be great. But is it? Because kind of it looks like he worked in his whole spiel that he's not all that confident, it looks like, that this deal is even going to go through. Because apparently at some point in the call, David Zaslav says, listen, guys, the deal may not close, Zaslav said. If it doesn't close, we get $7 billion, and then we get back to work, baby, he added, referring to the breakup fee Paramount agreed to pay if the deal doesn't get regulatory approval. So he's basically telling his employees that, listen, guys, even if this thing doesn't go through, it's not going to be that big of a deal because we get $7 billion either way, and then it'll just be business as usual. Now, the other thing about this is that if we look at a third-party analysis of all of this, apparently, like, the world of business, right? Like all the like this, and I'll just be honest, this isn't something that I'm super knowledgeable about, but all the like business analysts are basically looking at Paramount right now and going, "You guys are cooked." So, if you look at this article here, Paramount's debt downgraded to junk following Warner Brothers purchase deal. It's coming from Bloomberg, I guess, or Yahoo Finance. I think they're citing Bloomberg. I don't know. Paramount Skydance Corp shares fell more than 8% after Fitch Ratings downgraded the film and TV company's debt rating to junk to reflect a surge in borrowings from the $110 billion takeover of Warner Brothers Discovery, Inc. Shares of Paramount fell as low as $12.25 in New York trading. The merger of the two media companies will saddle the combined business with $79 billion in net debt. So again, I'm not really sure what all of that means, but from a lot of the commentary that I've seen, from what I've tried to read into it, it basically means that, Paramount is not like in a super great spot after buying, or like if the deal goes through, Paramount is just not going to be in a good spot financially. And so they're gonna have to do what Ted Sarandos did, right? Where they're gonna have to cut like an unimaginable amount of jobs in order to save money. They're gonna have to find success in those properties where it's like they're now, we're constantly arguing about whether or not Superman was a success or not, or if it needed to make $800 million or whatever. We might then be at a point where it's like, hey, a $600 Superman movie, even if that's success, even if it makes money, under a new Paramount, that might not be enough, frankly. Although we're actually going to get to another thing where actually maybe it is enough. We'll get to that. But anyways, I guess... if we want to go to other things, like Supergirl, probably going to make around $400, just assuming that it's not going to make as much as Superman. That might be seen as a failure, even if it wouldn't be under, the current David Zaslav regime. So it'll be interesting to see how, like, what the standards are once Paramount buys Warner Brothers, of how much are they going to be looking for their stuff to make? How much are they going to cut? How many jobs that we're going to lose? Either way, it just doesn't look like it's going to be a good thing. It doesn't look like it's going to be healthy for the industry. But we're just going to have to wait and see. Now that we have all that out of the way, let's get into some updated reporting on how or what David Ellison plans to do now that he has Warner Brothers. So, this is the most recent Bloomberg article regarding the subject. And they reiterate that Paramount Skydance Corp plans to keep much of Warner Brothers Discovery Inc. intact if it merges with the rival film and TV studio, a decision that may help address worries about job losses and production cuts. David Ellison, chief executive officer and controlling shareholder of Paramount, wants to keep the creative teams of the two studios while consolidating some of the marketing and distribution, according to people familiar with his plans. So, or I guess we'll read more. Oh, well, no, we'll get to this in a second. So that is, of course, contradicting, right, what Ted Sarandos said, right? Bloomberg's reports, the sources that they have within Warner Brothers, essentially saying that there aren't going to be as many job losses, but again, if you just read into the financials of it all, even if that's their intention, it's very unlikely that actually ends up bearing fruit. But what I think we can take from this is that it's just further reiteration that the creative teams are probably safe, right? Abdi and DeLuca, almost certainly safe. Gunn and Safran, almost certainly safe. You imagine Casey Bloys is safe over running HBO. So that is the most up-to-date reporting that we have on that. And look, say what you will, I can't deny that I like this new thing, or this next thing. Under Ellison's plan, Warner Brothers' HBO Max streaming service would merge into the existing Paramount Plus platform. One of the people said, he believes combining the offerings will allow more people to see the work of film and TV show creators. The libraries of the two companies, I'm tired, will make Paramount Plus more compelling for subscribers. Listen, as cynical as you may want to be about all of this, I don't think any of us can deny that, yeah, we would rather have less subscription services. Now, ideally, because once this happened, just to be clear, they are almost certainly going to raise the price of Paramount Plus. But the most important thing is, will the price of the combined subscription service be less money than Paramount Plus and HBO Max? You would assume so. And so at that point, I am just, as a consumer, as a selfish, greedy consumer, I will like that. So I can't deny that. As cynical as I am about all of this, I can't deny that I am going to probably like HBO Max being merged into Paramount Plus. But this other aspect of this thing is an omen, this other paragraph in this article is potentially an omen of what is to come, right? Because this article made sure to note that Paramount completed a merger with Ellison Skydance Media in August and is expected to announce a first round of 1,000 layoffs on Wednesday as it cuts costs and combines the businesses. The last time two major studios joined was in 2019 when Walt Disney Corporation acquired Fox's entertainment assets. Disney has cut thousands of jobs since then, and the combined company's theatrical output is lower. So this is just one of those situations where you can look at the past about how this stuff usually goes, and even though the companies are like, don't worry guys, this is going to be great for the industry. It's going to be more jobs, actually. In reality, jobs tend to be cut. It's just not great for the industry. So, yeah. Doesn't matter what David Ellison says. A bunch of jobs are going to be cut. And if you look into the financials, it's probably going to be an astronomical amount. But we'll have to wait and see. Now, one of the other big topics of conversation, we kind of touched on it earlier, the question has been, was Superman 2025 a success? You have people rage debating that the 624 million it made, along with the PVOD and whatever revenue, Superman was a massive success, right? The reporting is that it made over $100 million in profit when all was said and done. But you then have all of the other side of the coin, which is like, that's not good enough. We random people on Twitter, we're determining that that's not good enough, and that it needed to make 800 million or a billion in order to be successful. And it is always an interesting question where, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we think, right? like in my opinion, Man of Steel 600 million should have been seen as a success. Batman v Superman at 800 million should have been seen as a success. I think that those executives at the time that were running Warner Brothers and that were in charge of DC, I think the fact that they thought that they would just be as successful as Marvel right out of the gate was ridiculous. And I feel the exact same way about Superman. I mean, Superman did make a profit, so that's good. But they should understand the current state of the comic book movie industry, that even Marvel isn't isn't as successful right now. If you look at just the context of where was the DCEU before Superman? Well, the DCEU was at a place where the Flash was making $200 million. Blue Beetle was making $100-something million. The creme de la creme of the recent DCEU output was Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom or whatever, making $400 million. I think when you take all of that into consideration, if you're not satisfied with your first movie in your cinematic universe making $600 million, you're just delusional at that point. But again, that's my analysis of it all. At the end of the day, the only person's analysis that actually matters as far as where the DCU is going to go in the future, whether James Gunn is going to stick around, whether they're going to reboot again or whatever, which Jesus Christ. The only person's analysis who matters is who owns everything. Right? The person whose analysis mattered at the time that the movie came out was, of course, David Zaslav. Then it was Ted Sarandos when it looked like he was going to buy it. Now the person whose opinion matters is David Ellison. And he had like this, what was it? He told analysts during a conference call, and let me read what he had to say. This is coming from Variety. Ellison praised the year that Warner Brothers had in 2025, calling it a powerhouse slate, while crediting such hits as Superman and Minecraft with propelling the company to $4 billion in box office revenue. He did not name-check Sinners or One Battle After Another, two films from Warner Brothers that have dominated the award season. So, David Ellison went out of his way to credit Superman as a successful movie that propelled Warner Brothers to having a powerhouse slate in 2025. So you guys can, shit and piss in your pants. You can stamp your feet. You can insist that Superman was a massive failure and that it's going to lead to James Gunn getting yeeted out of the DCU, yeeted out of being the CEO of DC Studios. The reality is that it just wasn't a failure. It just wasn't. It was a success. It made money. And the guy who's about to buy everything considers it a success as well. Now, maybe he still fires James Gunn because of political reasons. Maybe James Gunn still leaves for political reasons. Maybe Supergirl and Clayface end up bombing really hard. And maybe we get to 2027 and the Batman Part 2 bombs, but probably not. Maybe Man of Tomorrow bombs. So, I guess all that stuff could change things. But as of right now, the main project in the DCU that has come out, like the actual important one, I don't think that Creature Commandos or Peacemaker are super important. Although again, it should also be noted that David Ellison isn't just going to take into account the DCU. Everything under DC Studios is a point on James Gunn's scorecard. So technically, when you look at everything, we've had The Penguin, which is a super successful Emmy-nominated show. Creature Commandos, which seems like it was a success. It wasn't a massive success, but it did good enough that it's getting a season 2. Then we had Superman, which David Ellison considers a massive success. Then we have Peacemaker season 2, which was more successful than the first season, at least. Obviously, that's also not a massive show, but I also don't think it's super important. Like, as of right now, I would argue that the only truly important project that's been released is Superman, and that was a success. And even the less important stuff around it were successful, with The Penguin being a massive highlight. You can think whatever you want to think about James Gunn. You can think whatever you think about what they should do. As of right now, DC Studios is a success. James Gunn is doing a good job, at least presumably according to David Ellison. So as of right now, I think he's safe. But that's just my opinion. We'll see. All right. We're now finally done with the Paramount nonsense. Let's get into some more stories. So there is a Game of Thrones movie being developed with one of the writers on Andor. This is coming from the LA Times. A Game of Thrones movie is in development at Warner Brothers, written by House of Cards showrunner Beau Willimon. The Times has confirmed, according to Page 6, which first reported Willimon's involvement, the Andor alum has already submitted a first draft. While details of the plot have yet to be confirmed, the film will reportedly center Aegon the Conqueror, who is the first Targaryen monarch to sit atop the Iron Throne, in the world of George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series. According to The Hollywood Reporter, HBO is also developing the story of Aegon's conquest of Westeros as a potential drama series. So it looks like this is a similar situation to the story that we reported last week, where Paramount is taking like 2 pitches for G.I. Joe, and then they're going to decide which one they're going to go with, or they're going to like combine the 2 of them into one thing. It seems like they're doing a similar thing here with Aegon the Conqueror, where they have 2 creative teams. One of them is, developing a movie. The other creative team is developing an HBO series. And it seems like they're going to decide which one they'd rather do. And I mean, maybe they're, let me actually pull up that Hollywood Reporter article. Okay, so yeah, in the Hollywood Reporter article that they're talking about, it says, another is based on King Aegon Targaryen's conquest of Westeros and is being developed by HBO as a possible drama series and by Warner Brothers film team as a mammoth Dune-sized feature film. So, yeah, I don't think that these are 2 separate stories, and I don't think it's going to be one of those things where we can get both of them. I believe these are essentially telling the same story, and Warner Brothers is going to decide if they think that it can work on the big screen, or if they'd rather just turn it into a show, just like they've done with, House of the Dragons and A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Honestly, I don't know anything about Aegon the Targaryen or whatever beyond just knowing that he is the OG Targaryen that started the Targaryen dynasty. Again, from my understanding, I don't think that they're adapting this from specific books. I believe I believe they would essentially be making this using the lore that George R.R. Martin has created, but creating their own story with that lore. And if it is just a simple story of Aegon the Conqueror, he's going through Westeros and he's conquering, that kind of sounds like a simplistic story that maybe would be best fit on the big screen. in a movie. Because if it is just conquering, you know, do you have the budget to have like an entire series of Aegon conquering? Or would it be more wise to have a movie of Aegon conquering where you're going to be able to justify the cost of him conquering for the entire runtime? You know, again, just my impression of all of this is that I think it would probably be best as a movie, but also I'm just not that familiar with the lore. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up coming off out of those things. Also, the something that does need to be brought up is I understand that Game of Thrones is super popular, but we are way past its heyday. And is it popular enough that, you know, you'll be able to draw in audiences in order to justify a big budget feature film? I'm not sure. I maybe it's not like a massive $200 million movie. I mean, if they can keep the budget relatively low, then obviously then for sure it'll be popular enough. But basically what I'm saying is if they make a big budget movie of Aegon conquering, are they going to be able to get in, you know, at minimum $500 million worth of people? Is Game of Thrones at that level still? I'm not sure. So that's another thing, but we'll see. Next up, we have Tamora Morrison essentially saying that Boba Fett has been put on the shelf. So this is coming from Inverse. Tragically, it seems as though the Mandoverse is moving on without the original Mandalorian, Boba Fett himself. While Din and Grogu's story will continue with a big screen epic set to unite the threads of The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka, Morrison revealed he was still waiting for a phone call in 2024. Circumstances haven't changed much since. Circumstances haven't changed much since. In an interview with Inverse to promote his latest film, The Bluff, Morrison confirms that Boba Fett is still on the shelf. The actor reportedly caught a bit of flack from Lucasfilm after telling fans to send a fax or a letter or an email lobbying for more Boba Fett in 2025. I was only joking. I'm at a convention and I say stupid things, Morrison tells Inverse. Then I've got Lucasfilm ringing me. Look, you've been put on the shelf, Boba Fett. We might open the jar later. And then there's more here. It's bittersweet, but Morrison looks back on his time on the Boba Fett set fondly. It was a big deal for me, he continues. When you do a series like Boba Fett and work with Ming-Na Wen, I started to think, man, this is it. I'm away. Season 2, 3, and 4, baby. But at the end of it, we had a great time. I was honored to be brought back after all that time. And then he says, I'm shelved. That's all, he adds. Like a jar of peaches. When it does get open, I'm going to come back out sweeter, darling. So yeah, I mean, we probably could have predicted this, but there we have confirmation that Boba Fett is not going to be showing back up anytime soon. We're not going to get a Book of Boba Fett Season 2. He's not going to appear in The Mandalorian and Grogu. He's not going to appear in Ahsoka Season 2. I mean, I guess Tamora Morrison could also be doing a fake out, but I doubt it. Yeah, man. Unfortunately, that show did a lot of damage to the character of Boba Fett, and yeah, I mean, they're going to have to do like a massive course correction if they do decide to bring him back, and Dave Filoni is probably looking at all of his responsibilities and all of the upcoming projects, and he's like, it's just not worth it having to deal with Boba Fett at this point. I think if they can get back on track and if they can get Star Wars in a good place again, I think then they can start thinking about, okay, do we revisit some of the stuff that we messed up, right? Do we revisit Obi-Wan, maybe do an Obi-Wan Season 2? Do we revisit Boba Fett, maybe give him an actual good show this time? Yeah, I think this all makes sense. So I think Boba Fett at the end of the day is obviously, he'll always be a popular character. I think that there's always going to be room for him to come back in some fashion. But as of right now, I think you got to focus on what are you going to do after like Starfighter, right? How is that going to enhance your universe? What is this Kinberg trilogy going to be? And if all that stuff hits, right? I did skip over the Mandalorian and Grogu. I mean, if that's good, then obviously that can help towards reestablishing the brand. But yeah, I don't think it's worth it trying to get fans to like Boba Fett again. It's just the political capital is not worth it at this point. But we'll see. All right, next up, Alien Earth. We have some information on when it's going to be filming. So this is coming from Deadline. Alien Earth star Sydney Chandler. This is the girl who plays like our lead character. Told Deadline during a Texas Film Awards presser Thursday that production on season 2 of the Noah Hawley created FX series is commencing in May. So yeah, I gotta get back to Alien Earth. I was enjoying it, but then life got in the way. I stopped watching it. I stopped doing reviews. And yeah, that's it. So I do need to get back to it. I'll probably just do a full watch through of season 1 when season 2 is coming out. But I gotta say this as well. It's like, okay, I'm just so sick of the multi-year gaps, because if they're only just now starting in May, then you know that the show isn't coming out until mid to late 2027. And let me make sure. Oh yeah, it came out in 2025, right? So it's going to be at least a 2-year wait. Yeah, no, it definitely didn't come out in 2026. It came out in August of 2025. It's just annoying. I don't know. Like, I get it. A lot of these streaming shows have super high production values. They're going to take a lot to film. But I don't know. At the end of the day, I think I'd rather have lower production value shows that come out annually so that I don't immediately forget everything. But is that just me? Maybe. Or maybe not. Anyways. We also have a shooting date for The Batman Part 2. So let's get into this. The Batman 2's exact filming date in May revealed. The Batman Part 2 will reportedly begin filming on May 29th, 2026 in London as per a new report. The report comes from Page 6, which cited sources and said that the sequel was fully cast and ready to go. It aligns with what Variety reported last month, stating that the film would begin production by the end of May. So, I mean, that's obviously a big deal. Like, we truly have been waiting for 87 years for this movie. And it's now starting to feel real. It's starting to feel like, okay, maybe Matt Reeves actually did finish the script. Maybe all of the cast members actually have signed on to do the movie. It's, once we get those set photos, I wonder if we'll get another, like, suit reveal, even though we already know what the suit looks like. But, like, maybe they do kind of what they did with Spider-Man Brand New Day, where they had the, like, day one production thing where, like, Robert Pattinson walks up and he's like, "Hello, mates." He's just in the Batman setup. He's like, "Hello, mates. I'm excited to be filming the Batman." I don't know. Hopefully we get something like that. Because I love the Batman. I love Matt Reeves, and I love Robert Pattinson, and I want to see more and learn more about the movie. It is interesting, right? Because we still don't actually know what it's gonna be about. I mean, we basically know that Harvey Dent is gonna be in it, and so presumably Two-Face is gonna be involved in some capacity, but also maybe not. Maybe they keep Harvey Dent as Harvey Dent in this movie, and Two-Face happens later. But we don't really know what the villain is. We don't know what the plot is. So, especially once they start filming, I would imagine that a lot of that stuff is going to end up either being explicitly stated by them or is going to start leaking out. So, it'll be super interesting. Once it starts filming, I feel like we're gonna start learning way more about the movie. All right, title story of the stream, not the stream. This is recorded. We got some more information about Spider-Man Brand New Day's trailer. Now, this is admittedly coming from a dubious source. It's coming from a Twitter account called Trailer Track. I've never heard of these people, but people were reporting on it. It seems like it's as the account states. They track trailers. That being said, I think they have some amount of notoriety or credibility because they're being followed by the Hollywood Reporter. I was poking around their account, so I don't know. Take it with a grain of salt. But either way, it is just interesting now to talk about the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer because it's gonna happen soon. Either way, so this is their Twitter post that they did. When it comes to the release of the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer, what we're hearing is the following two scenarios that are being considered by the Sony marketing team. Number one, it will premiere exclusively in front of Project Hail Mary in theaters for the opening March 20th weekend, and then be released only the following start of the week. Will have already leaked at that point for certain. The more likely choice we believe they're going with, however, is number two. Sony will wait until CinemaCon as they're the first big studio to debut on opening night of Monday, April 13th. There they will unleash the trailer both to the audience and online, plus more exclusive footage at the event itself. This gives them 3.5 months to push the marketing campaign before the July 31st release. Also remember that they use the same strategy for Spider-Man No Way Home. So, yeah, I mean, these two seem like the obvious choices, right? Project Hail Mary is one of their biggest movies of the year. It is one of their most, critically acclaimed movies of the year. I mean, the people that have seen it are just raving about it. But it's also a movie that I'm not sure how well it's going to do at the box office. It's not a known IP. I've actually avoided the trailers because book readers, I hear from a bunch of book readers that they're like, oh, they reveal too much in the trailers. So I've actually decided to watch it. I've ignored the trailers. So I don't necessarily know how good the trailers are. But I also just don't get the feeling that general audiences are all that aware of it. So it's possible that the word of mouth for this thing is so good and so hype that general audiences start picking up on it and it becomes a massive success. But if you're Sony and you want to push this movie even further, tack on a Brand New Day trailer. At least some people will go watch Project Hail Mary just to watch the trailer, even if it does get leaked online. There are going to be some people that want to go watch it in high quality in a movie theater. I mean, I don't know. I do wonder what the data is of how much did those Avengers Doomsday teasers help Avatar 3's box office. I mean, clearly it didn't get it to 2 billion. It only did 1.4 billion, which, by the way, this is how ridiculous the Avatar franchise is. $1.4 billion at the box office was seen as a disappointment. Absurd franchise. But yeah, I mean, CinemaCon is also an interesting thing because, I mean, they will 100% show Spider-Man Brand New Day stuff at CinemaCon. You can almost guarantee that Tom Holland is going to go up on stage and he's going to be like, hello, CinemaCon, I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited to show you exclusive footage from our new Marvel film. You know that they're going to show stuff at CinemaCon, but CinemaCon stuff usually doesn't get put out online. I'm trying to remember, but I don't think that CinemaCon will usually do what's being described here, where the studio will show a trailer at CinemaCon and then release the trailer publicly. I'm trying to remember. I mean, it's not like I have this. It's not like I'm a CinemaCon lore master, but Yeah, I don't know that they usually do that. So I'm gonna put my money on Project Hail Mary approach happening because I think they're gonna show up at CinemaCon anyway, but do they want to release a Spider-Man No Way Home trailer online when a bunch of other movie news is going to be circulating and coming out of CinemaCon? I don't know that you necessarily want to do that. I feel like if you release the trailer when Project Hail Mary comes out, not only are you helping Project Hail Mary's box office, but you're also like the movie news of that day, right? You're the movie news of that week because you know who else is going to be at CinemaCon? Avengers Doomsday. They are going to show Avengers Doomsday stuff at CinemaCon. And even if they don't put out an Avengers Doomsday trailer along with it, whatever gets revealed and whatever gets talked about and reported from CinemaCon regarding Avengers Doomsday is going to compete with a potential Spider-Man No Way Home first trailer. So, yeah, the more I talk myself through it, I think it's going to be Project Hail Mary. But we'll see. That it also might not be any of these, and they might just drop it on a random Tuesday. That's also a possibility. So, we'll see. Let's get into our last story of the day. Apparently, Disney's live-action Robin Hood is dead. So, it's coming from Dark Horizon. A planned adaptation... let me actually take out the highlight. A planned live-action adaptation of Disney's beloved 1973 animated take on Robin Hood is dead. Participating in a Reddit AMA, filmmaker Carlos Lopez Estrada said the studio wasn't moving forward with a planned photorealistic graphical take on the work a la The Lion King. So, this is on the one hand surprising, but also on the one hand not. Because, Disney has been very desperate in their attempts to milk their animated movies and turn them into live action films. But I do think they're also realizing another thing. Is that there's really only a limited section of their animated movie catalog that realistically is going to translate into big money at the box office, right? And I think those movies are very specifically like that 90s era of Disney, your Little Mermaids, your Beauty and the Beasts, your Lilo and Stitches, and even some of the newer stuff, right? Like Moana's as much as we hate that it's happening, Moana's probably going to be the live action Moana is probably going to make $1 billion. But stuff like Dumbo, stuff like Robin Hood, like when did Robin Hood come out? Let me see. Robin Hood animated movie release date. It came out in 1973. I think that the reason why stuff like The Beauty and the Beast and Lilo and Stitch are so successful is because you have people that watched those movies when they were kids. Now they've grown up. They have their own kids, and they're all excited to go watch this stuff together. I think when you look at stuff like Dumbo, which didn't do very well at the box office, it's like, people that grew up and watched Dumbo and Snow White and, Robin Hood when they were kids, it's like they either don't have little kids or they're just so old at this point that they don't care. They're not gonna go watch the live action version. It's like I think that's one of the main reasons why those movies didn't do as well, is because it's not even necessarily the quality, because we've seen with a lot of the live action movies that have done well where they're not good either and they still make a bunch of money. I just think it's because the nostalgia for a lot of this stuff isn't as strong. And so I think when you look at the failures of Dumbo and Snow White, they're probably looking at Robin Hood and they're like, this just isn't worthwhile. Unfortunately, maybe. Although maybe not unfortunately. Because, Robin Hood is a pretty loved movie. And so you would think people would want to see a live action version of it, but also not, because it's not even really live action. It's animated. It's photorealistic animation. And then we would get into a whole debate about Lion King anyways. But also, do people trust Disney with their live action remakes? No, they don't. So, on the one hand, this is obviously a clear devaluing of Robin Hood as a valuable IP. But maybe also, if you like Robin Hood, you're safe from the claws of the greedy Disney machine. So, anyways, those are all of the stories that we have today. Let me know what you think about any and all of them in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.